Ilocos, a place like no other, where its vast and rich history and diverse population come together in an astonishing display of culture. We are going to dig deeper and try to explain more eloquently the Ilocano culture more than the Ilocano identifier, kuripot. This documentary is for the Ilocanos, by the Ilocanos, because our culture has become so much a part of our daily lives that we have taken it for granted. Little that we know that these things which seem the most obvious, normal, and natural that hold the most power over us. This is for the non-Ilocanos as well, for them to have a more profound understanding of the Ilocano culture. So join us as we uncover the Ilocano culture through Ilocano food, traditional crafts, traditions, and what they can offer to tourism. First, what is culture? According to Dr. Marivig Alimbuyugen, a sociologist, culture consists of the four elements which include communication, cognitive, behavioral, and physical artifacts. Simply defined, Ilocano culture is the Ilocanos' way of life. Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur. There might be some differences in accents and terminologies, but basically, they have the same language, they have the same culture, but the only difference lies on how they do things. This is the reason why even though Ilocos region is comprised of other provinces, this documentary will be focusing on North and South Ilocos. But before we unpack the Ilocano culture, first we have to understand who the Ilocano people are and what they have gone through to become the people they are now. Ilocanos belong to the Malay race and are part of the larger group people called Austronesians. The original Ilocanos were the Snegs. Snegs had kinky hair, flat nose, and round eyes, but because of interracial marriage to other ethnic groups in the Philippines as well as to other nationalities, present-day Ilocanos now have diverse features. Ilocos comes from the word loco, which means coves. The early Ilocanos lived in coves when the Spaniards came in the Philippines. Ilocano culture is a product of many factors that worked with each other to become what it is today as we know it. One of these is colonization. The Philippines went under the rule of numerous colonizers. Ilocanos incorporated numerous traditions, beliefs, and values and made it their own, resulting to a very rich and diverse Ilocano culture. Another factor is the geographical location and the economic situation of the Ilocanos. Ilocanos became farmers. They cultivated the land, but they were still poor. The efforts of the heroes and the admirable personalities also made the Ilocanos uphold the values and ideals that they fought so hard for. Still, this did not stop Ilocanos from being farmers. They planted the white and brown gold, the garlic and tobacco, and other agricultural products. They still do. With the limited crops that they could plant, Ilocanos, adventurous as they are, decided to move to other places to seek greener pastures, literally and figuratively. Some Ilocanos went to Mindanao and worked for the royal Muslims. The notion of sailing to the unknown did not also discourage 15 Ilocanos to board the SS Durik, headed for Hawaii in 1906. They worked in plantations and now, more than 90% of Filipinos in Hawaii have Ilocano blood. Because they know how to work hard, Ilocanos in turn value the fruits of their labor. Ilocanos are simple. That is why others often belittle them. But when they get to see the respectable houses and the things Ilocano filled them with, they often get surprised. Industry, adventurous, frugality, and practicality. All these traits are anchored on one thing: love for family. According to Dr. Marivig Alimbuyugen, Ilocanos also put high value on education. And this is a reason why Ilocanos have a high HDI or Human Development Index. There could be several original Ilocano games. These games may vary according to the resources available in a place, and most are played in teams or groups. But according to Mr. Ricardo Favis, who works for UNESCO Regional Office in Bangkok, we cannot really determine the original Ilocano games. This might be But this did not stop Ilocanos from putting their own spin on these games, and one of these is through naming them. Another thing that Ilocanos did was to utilize the available resources found in their environment. The need of kids to be playful could have initiated the development of these games to entertain themselves. Using their creativity and ingenuity, they invented games to alleviate their boredom, since back then life was still simple. Back then, there was no trace of technology. These games are manifested of traits and values that Ilocanos hold dear to their heart, just like resilience exemplified in Kadang-Kadang. No matter how high the bamboo pole is, you still try to walk in it, and you still do your best to make it to the finish line. Honesty and humility, especially when playing group games. These games were also a way of the community to foster camaraderie, unity, harmony, and belongingness. The Ilocos region is known of greatly as the prime producer of corn. The oversupply of corn sparked the idea of the production of a popular snack in the region. What started as a little discovery of a single household spread popularity among all other households, and so inevitably became a mass production. This is known of as chicha corn. But whether or not this industry is original to the Ilocanos, it represents the resourcefulness and the frugality persona of the Ilocanos. Empanada was introduced by the Spaniards, and it resembles the Mexican taco. Batak and vegan are notable for their empanadas. When put side by side, several differences could be seen. The orange color of Batak empanada is because of the food coloring used, while vegan's yellow color is due to atruete. Batak's is bigger than vegan's. Both empanadas are suited to the preferences of the people from Ilocos Norte and Ilocos Sur. That is why it's really hard to say which is more delicious than the other. Empanada seems to be in constant evolution. Some empanada makers add hot dogs and sausages as filling to make it extra special. Some flowers add malunggay to their dough. It cannot be denied that the process of how empanada is made is representative of the industry, inventiveness, and it even represents the closely knit relationship of Ilocano families. Another famous souvenir snack or pasalubong from the Ilocos region is the kalamay. Kalamay, which means sugar, is a sticky sweet delicacy that is popular in many regions of the Philippines, especially in the city of Candon, Ilocos Sur. This delicacy is made of sugar, glutinous rice flour, and coconut milk. It borrows the same principle as the production of dudol, a decades-old native rice cake among the Ilocanos. The kalamay was a poor recreation of the cake of the Western countries. Due to the lack of technology and resources, the Ilocanos came up with their own version, which they called bibingka. The abundance of coconut trees in the town of Candon has kept the industry alive and flourishing for 5 generations in the Canonizado family of Barangay Bagar. The kalamay industry has been passed from one generation to another, that even Nanay Norma's 6-year-old granddaughter Maria already has her hand on the production of kalamay. The kalamay industry has maintained close family ties within the Canonizado family as they work together for cooking of the ingredients up to the panagbalkot or packaging process. The everyday production has become their daily family get-together. Reflecting from the life of the Canonizado family, the kalamay depicts patience and industry of the Ilocanos. It also proves how Ilocanos prioritize each of their family members, the bond, and how they want to succeed along with each other. The abel is made from yarns of cotton or sagot that are sourced from the many lands in northern Luzon dedicated to the growing of this plant. On the whole, abel weaving follows a very intricate process. The abel is often given to dignitaries, important people, and even to the dead as pabalon. The abel Iloco has become so popular that even the Spanish Armada or Spanish warships use abel as their sail. The high demand for the abel Iloco nearly killed the Spanish weaving industry during the galleon trade era. The 92-year-old master weaver and 2012 Gawad sa Manilikha ng Bayan awardee Magdalena Gamayo learned the art of weaving from her aunt. She was never formally taught but picked up the art on her own by copying the patterns. The abel projects how artistic Ilocanos are in terms of textile. Although the abel in Ilocos are somewhat similar to those found in Cordillera region, according to Dr. Lulinco, the design and the color is what makes the abel Iloco different to that of the other looms and weaves in the Philippines. Furthermore, the simplicity of the design and the color also speaks of the personality of the culture of the Ilocanos. As Vigan is known for its historic ancestral houses, the people of Vigan also exert effort to preserve the tradition of making burnay. Burnay is unglazed and natural earthen jars, an industry that dates back to the pre-colonial times when immigrants from China came and settled in Vigan. The first Chinese traders are believed to have started trading with the Filipinos as early as 13th century, for which the art of making burnays existed in the area of Vigan right before the Spaniards came in 1572. These Chinese artisans who built this industry relied on the locals of Vigan for their clay and labor. Continuing the tradition of the craft inherited and preserving the art of making burnays, Fidel Go was awarded the Gawad Manlilikanang Bayan of the National Commission on Culture and the Arts in 1990. The burnay was one of the products exported through the galleon trade. Fine sand is used as tempering material to achieve the desired shape. It will be placed inside a high-temperature ground kiln made of brick and clay. Because of this, the burnay jars are believed to be harder and more durable compared to terracotta. These jars were used as storage for food, salt, water, and were also used in fermentation of wine and vinegar. However, Ilocanos nowadays use the burnay less as a storage but more as decorations and for landscaping and gardening. The art of making burnay stood the test of time and continues to showcase Filipinos' artistry and craftsmanship. Like all Filipinos, the Ilocanos have strong family tie. They have high respect to their parents, which is very evident in their marriage traditions. Once the couple decides to marry, the boy informs the girl's parents about their plans. This announcement is known as the panagpudno. After this will be the panaguli, where the panagpapatangan and the exchange of sabong or dowry takes place. Speaking of superstitions, Ilocanos never fail to share their numerous beliefs. These superstitions can be manifested most especially when someone dies. From the prohibition of wearing green clothes when visiting a wake, of sweeping during interment, of putting a comb on the coffin, and of dropping of tears on the coffin. In Vigan, Ilocos Sur, during the tabon or the interment, the siblings of the dead are not allowed to go to the cemetery for the belief that all of them will die next. Every Ilocano burial rites or pumpon follows an elaborate set of practices that are still observed until this age. One unique ritual of the Ilocanos is the atong, a mini bonfire that is placed in front of the house or the place of the wake. The atong, which is also believed to drive away evil spirits and to light the soul of the dead to salvation, lets the community know the house is holding a funeral wake, and so it must continuously burn until interment. After the dead was laid to rest, the bereaved offer prayers such as the rosary for the dead every evening for 9 days, a custom called pasyam or pagsisham. This novena often concludes with a service followed by a formal meal with family and friends. The custom is based on the folk belief that the soul of the departed enters the afterlife on the 9th day. Another unique practice of the Ilocanos is the dungaw. These are forms of deep respect to human beings, and so they give considerable attention in honoring the dead. The whole year-round Philippine fiestas of all kinds mark the Filipino calendar. Why has this practice been embedded in the Filipino culture? It is a social activity that enhances the local pride, sense of belonging to the community, participating, and displaying of skills. Food, traditional crafts, traditions, and what Ilocanos can offer to tourism results to an incomparable culture you can never find in any other place in the world. With this, how can the Ilocano culture be preserved?
The Ilocano culture faces numerous problems about its preservation. First is a lack of awareness from the people of their own culture. They are very influenced from other cultures that they tend to forget their own. At home, which is a child's first school, Ilocano culture is likely to come in second, or worse, never to come up in upbringing of children. And perhaps if Ilocano culture is actually being taught, what comes next is the resistance of the younger generation. Education also poses a challenge in Ilocano cultural preservation. Communication of the Ilocano culture is absent in schools. The Ilocano language is not used. Language and culture are living beings, and they are attached to the speakers of the language and the communities exhibiting or practicing these cultures. The next challenge is the lack of proper documentation of Ilocano culture. If there are documents, they are few in number and cover a small portion of the richness of the Ilocano culture. Also concerned in cultural preservation is the defiance of people to legislations put up by the government to safeguard the Ilocano culture. These are promulgated with good intentions behind them, and people should see their importance for cultural preservation. The traditional forms of media has been used in information dissemination, so why not Ilocano cultural preservation as well? With the use of radio, television, movies and films, and with print media, Ilocanos can get to reach infinite number of people and educate them about Ilocano culture without traveling a single mile. The possibilities for cultural preservation using technology, especially with the internet, are endless. Not only this, but when something is documented in the World Wide Web, it will be there, accessible to all. One way could be through the use of memes. Yes, memes incorporate Ilocanos' love for creativity, wit, and humor. Another way is through blogging. People love to tell stories. They love to regale others with interesting things, and why not use this to inform other people of the Ilocano culture? What's more is that blogs are basically free to put up. How many hours are you on social networking sites every day? It's scary to think about how we are consumed by Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others, isn't it? But we can actually use this for our advantage. Ilocano culture could be promoted in these platforms, and voila! Netizens will be constantly exposed to Ilocano culture using these. Same goes for travel sites and websites. Who wouldn't want to travel? But since traveling is not that cheap, a lot of planning goes into it. Ilocanos get to entice prospect tourists with the information about tourist spots and material culture available in these websites.
Truly, the Ilocano culture is inimitable, definitely worth preserving and letting it flourish for the next generation to appreciate and treasure. The road towards this goal is not an easy one. It will definitely be a struggle, but hopefully, someday all the Ilocanos would be able to say with conviction, passion and pride, Ilocano ak, kinday toy ti kanawidak.